But today I'll be continuing with my schedule discussion and point spread prediction videos. Today I'll be doing Wake Forest. Wake Forest lost their best quarterback that they've ever had last year, Sam Hartman, to the transfer portal. And he set school records there for yards and completions and touchdown passes. And he also set an ACC record for the most games of 300 passing yards with 21. He was their starter there for 3 years and put up huge numbers there. And what I saw after he transferred out was that uh, Wake Forest his offense was more about the kind of offense that they ran and not Sam Hartman. And that Sam Hartman is a good quarterback and that he would be good for Notre Dame, but any quarterback would do well in the offense that Wake Forest ran. So then they would still have a good offense without him. But that was not even close to being the case. Wake Forest's offense was terrible last year, averaging just a little bit over 20 points a game. And they ranked 102 in passing yards per game at under 200. And their defense was never very good, I don't think. And it wasn't very good last year either, giving up over 27 points a game, which ranks 75th in the country. But it was their offense that caused their record to change so much. It turns out the team was all about Sam Hartman because in his time at Wake Forest, he even took them to an ACC championship. He was so good, and their number of wins dropped uh, from 8 in 2022 to just 4 in 2023. And they only got one conference win last year, which was uh, the worst in the ACC. Uh, and I really do think that it was unfair that uh, Sam Hartman didn't end up getting drafted because he really is a good quarterback. One of the few good things that has come out of Wake Forest football. And I don't think Wake Forest is going to be any good at all again this year. Uh, I think they'll be one of the worst teams in the ACC again. And they obviously don't have a quarterback anywhere near Hartman. And so they start the schedule on a Thursday against a team called North Carolina A&T. I had never even heard of them until now, but that'll be an easy win for them against an FCS team. That's the only given win I see on the schedule for Wake Forest this year. Connecticut in the non-conference is one that they should be able to win, but that's not a given win. Uh, that probably will be kind of tough. And then the same with Louisiana. They should be able to beat them, but uh, that won't be a real easy one. Uh, and then their non-conference game uh, in the Power Four comes against the Lane Train, my Ole Miss Rebels, and they're gonna go in there and uh, beat up on Wake Forest really bad. I'm a believer now in the Lane Train after doubting him after how the 2022 season ended. And they start their conference schedule against Virginia at home. That's a nice way to start it. Virginia was awful too last year, and it's nice to get that game at home. That's one maybe Wake Forest could get. And then NC State on the road next in the conference. Not much of a chance there. NC State defense is going to be pretty good again. It always is. And if Wake Forest can't score much again, they're not going to get hardly anywhere on NC State's defense. And NC State's offense is going to be better too, I think, after not being that good last year. Uh, so not much of a chance for Wake Forest to be able to win that one. And then Clemson next. So Wake Forest has played Clemson tough these last couple of years, but has never beat them. Uh, but that's very likely going to be a loss again for Wake Forest. They may be able to play them close again because Clemson's offense, I'm still not really a believer in it. I think they will probably kind of struggle again this year, but Clemson, unlike Wake Forest, is going to have a really good defense, and of course they're going to have a great head coach to lead their team that Wake Forest doesn't have. And then next in the conference at Stanford, that's one Wake Forest will have a good chance to get. Stanford was even worse last year, both offensively and defensively. Would have been nice to get that game at home, like they did with the Virginia game. It was those two teams are uh, both around the same, I think, with how horrible they are. Uh, but it's going to be hard for Wake Forest to be 2-0 with those road games in a row against Connecticut and Stanford, even though those teams are awful. Uh, and then they take a week off before uh, playing Cal on a Friday. Nice to get that game at home. Cal is terrible too. Wake Forest will have a really good chance to pull off a win in that one. Uh, and then two road games in a row again against North Carolina and Miami. Uh, so very unlikely that they win either one of those. North Carolina, there'll be a chance. Miami, I don't think there's much of a chance at all this year. Miami's a team that I now think might be able to make uh, the 12-team playoff and maybe win the ACC this year. I think they're going to be that good. And North Carolina is not going to be great at all, but I still think they've got more talent than Wake Forest does. And then Duke to end the season. That's one that they could maybe get. Nice to have that one at home because Duke is, I don't think, uh, going to be the same. Losing their coach and uh, quarterback and a bunch of other players that were really good for them uh, on last year's team. Uh, so on this schedule, it would be possible for Wake Forest to make a bowl game, even though they're probably not going to be very good at all because of how the schedule works out. And they were able to avoid Florida State and Virginia Tech, which is nice. So now I'll move on to the point spread prediction. So games in the green are games where I think Wake Forest will be a blowout favorite, 20 or more points, and there's one of those, North Carolina A&T. And then games in the blue are games where I think they'll be favored by double digits, 10 to 19 points, and there's one of those, Louisiana. Games in the purple are games where I think they'll be favored by about a touchdown, 6 to 9 points, and there's one of those. Connecticut games in the pink are games where I think they'll be favored by about a field goal at 1 to 5 points, and there's three of those. Virginia, California, and Duke games in the yellow are games where I think that Wake Forest will be an underdog by about a touchdown, 6 to 9 points, and there's four of those. NC State, Clemson, uh, North Carolina, and Miami. Games in the gray are games where I think they'll be an underdog by about a field goal, 1 to 5 points, and there's one of those, Stanford. And games in the red are games where I think uh, they'll be an underdog by a blowout, which is 20 or more points, and there's one of those, Ole Miss. So North Carolina A&T, they should be favored in that one by 30 something points. And then Virginia, I think Wake Forest will be the favorite by probably around three. Uh, Probably though they would be a small underdog if that was a road game. And uh, California and Duke, I think they'll be the favorite over both of them. Because of home field advantage, probably by just like a point though. Uh, and Louisiana, I think Wake Forest will probably be like a 10-point favorite in that game. Uh, and then Connecticut, uh, the spread in that one will probably be like 9 points. I would put that in the blue if it was a home game. Uh, and Stanford, I just have that in the gray because it's a road game. I think maybe Stanford will be favored by a point in that one, but Wake Forest, I think, has a good chance to be the favorite, even on the road, and they no doubt would be at home, even though Wake Forest has no home field advantage really, and Stanford doesn't either. But Stanford and Wake Forest are on the opposite sides of the country, so it's going to be a lot harder for the team that has to travel. Uh, and NC State, I think the spread in that one will be around 7 probably, and uh, probably around 6 with North Carolina, and uh, probably around 7 with Miami, uh, and Clemson. The spread in that one will probably be mm, like uh, 7. And Ole Miss, the spread in that one I think will be 24 or 25 points. So I think they'll probably be favored in 6 games, which would mean they go to a bowl game. But it's going to be hard for them to win all 6 of those. They'll probably end up having to pull an upset or two to get there. Maybe they could do it, but I wouldn't say it would be likely right now. So that will be it with this video, and please subscribe to the channel, and thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon.